Okay, so to start with, I'm just going to take the 4.5 camera and I'm just going to mount the tripod. Alrighty, so unfortunately on the tripod mount here, there's a threaded piece that you screw into the bottom of the camera. And I've actually, in order to mount it onto the 4.5 camera, the Shen Hao, there needs to actually be a little, I think it's a, I don't know what the initial thread is, but it takes it down to a 1/4 thread, or builds it up to a 1/4 thread. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use that camera today because I can't mount it to this. So therefore I can't mount it to this. So it's quite frustrating, but luckily I did bring the X100V because I've always got it with me, which is the beauty of that camera. So I'm just going to grab that out and we're just going to use that this morning. It's going to look a bit crazy because I've got the big hex head tripod mount with the X100V on it, but fortunately it is what it is. So initially I kind of thought this scene would work for the 4.5 camera because it's at about a 50-60 millimeter focal length when you put it into 35mm terms. And it was doing like kind of a nice kind of 2:1 panorama, whereas this is a little bit wider. So now I need to kind of recompose to make it work for this scene. So let's try and make it happen and see what we can get out of this scene. Probably the best thing about the light this morning is there's not a lot of contrast between the sky and the foreground. So I'm not having to use the Nissi filter set that I've been using to try and bring down the sky to balance it out with the foreground. So I'm just going to take this shot. Like I said, it wasn't really thought out for this camera. So I'm just going to give it a go, see what it looks like, and then we're going to move on to another location. Alrighty, so given I didn't have the tripod screw with me this morning, I'm not going to be able to get the 4.5 camera out and use the 6x12 panoramic adapter, so we'll do that later in the week. But for now, I've got my X100V and an over-engineered tripod for it, the one I use for my 4.5 cameras. And I'm going to use the opportunity this morning to scout for some locations. We've got some really good astro conditions coming up, some perfectly clear skies over the next couple of days. So I'm going to just go through this region, make the most of it, and just try and find some compositions that'll work for astrophotography. And I found one just here, which I think will work really well on film to do some star trails in the background on this kind of rocky kind of outcrop. So I'll show you that now, and we're just going to work our way through the region and see what else we can find so we can nail these compositions over the next couple of days. Yeah, so this focal length works a hell of a lot better with this scene, so a little bit closer with our focal point rather than being a long way in the distance. So the 35mm equivalent on the X100V's really working wonders with this. We've just got trees on either side, and then that big kind of rocky piece kind of right in the middle there, which is really setting off the scene. Okay, so I'm just going to put the Nissi filter on again. The sky behind the rock is just being illuminated by the sun coming in behind it, and it's just overexposing that part of the scene. So rather than trying to bracket the exposure, I'm going to try filters first to try and get it in one, and if that doesn't work, then we'll try another method of exposure. Alrighty, so I'm just using the graduated filter on the filter set here, and that's just bringing the exposure down in the sky to balance it out with the foreground. So I did make a video about this recently, which just explains the Nissi filter for the X100V and what the filters kind of do respectively. So I'm going to give this a go, see if it works for the exposure. If not, then we'll try and bracket the scene with multiple shots and we can blend them together in post. When using the Nissi filter set and just playing around with that, it is still overexposing the sky. And if I make it too much darker, because it is backlit, it's just going to take too much detail out of the rock there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bracketed exposure, and then I can blend them all in post, and that should work out quite nicely. In kind of almost having the rocks in complete darkness, just to get the gradation in the sky, and this is where you can still use that filter just to bring in a little bit of tonality in the sky, just so you've got a nice little gradation and makes it a little bit interesting, especially when there's no clouds in the sky. So just taking that shot now, bringing the exposure up just a touch, and I'm using the shutter speed to do this, keeping the focus point in the exact same space. You should probably put this on manual focus, so it just stays in the same place when focusing. So again, just taking that shot as well. So in terms of working out whether this would be a great spot for astro, all I'm really doing on here is looking for the PhotoPills app, and I've been using this app for a number of years now and it works extremely well, because what you can do is, even in full daylight like today, you can scroll down to night AR mode, and this will just bring up your camera and it'll show you kind of the scene in front of you, and you can now move this around and actually see what's going to be in the scene at any given time. So you can see exactly where the galaxy is going to be at any time. So you can either manually put in the time and date that you're going to come back to this location. So it could be in 3 weeks' time, and you can see where the galaxy is going to be, at what position, at what time. So you can just really refine your trip and go, okay, I'm going to be at this location at 11 o'clock at night time on the 26th of January, so you can see how that's going to look in the scene. So for me here, I've kind of got the southern kind of point here, so a nice kind of rotational kind of area, which is great. I'm not sure if I've got something wide enough to make that work. So what I'll end up getting is I'll get some really nice kind of star trails kind of coming down in that kind of direction, in through the landscape. See, I've got night AR on now, and you can see it's just using my camera, if I move it around, to showcase kind of what's in front of me. So you can see this rocky outcrop there in the camera here, and you can also see the Milky Way there. So if I move the screen around, that's actually changing the time, which you can see just up in the top there. So that says 6:09 AM, which is roughly the time now, whereas if I move it, it's getting later and later in the day, so we're now kind of into the evening. So that there is 9 o'clock, and it gets dark quite late here. So there you go, you've got the center of the Milky Way kind of down there, so we're not going to get that. But at around 10:30 PM tonight at this location, you're going to get the galaxy up through there. So that'll be nice for the GFX. But for film photography, which is what I'm going to be focused on, you can see the line of the stars here and kind of where they're going to be moving through, which is quite cool. So that's what the star trails are generally going to be looking like. So it'll kind of run straight off of the tip of the mountain there and kind of move on up through the scene. So I think this is definitely a location that I'll be coming back to this week to try and get my project for astrophotography on film back on track. And as is usually the case when I'm about to leave the scene, I've just found another composition just here, and it might actually be worth waiting just a few moments as light's just about to pass over and just kind of hit the tops. So I'll show you that composition now. I've taken just an initial shot already, and I think it's working quite well. And again, using that graduated filter just to kind of fill in the sky with a bit of a gradation. I think it's quite nice. So let's show you that now. I was talking about, so some nice kind of, you know, trees in the foreground, and then you've just got these huge kind of trees just kind of bustling through the middle there. So it's really quite nice and soft with the tops of these trees, and then those kind of poking through. And then right back there in the distance, you've just got an electricity pole. So really nice tonal black and white that I'm actually really happy with, because it's not why I stopped in this position. But again, I think this could be another cool astro opportunity. So we've got one here, and then one kind of, the rocks are just over there. So I could set up 2 cameras and really make this work. Alrighty, the sun's really starting to come up now, so we've probably got our last location for the day, and we've really just arrived at the place that I was actually going to come this morning for my initial idea of the 4x5 film camera video. So something that we'll be exploring more over the next couple of weeks, but for now, you know, we've had a good morning and it's been a good location scouting type exercise. But now we've actually got, so something I don't usually do is include kind of man-made objects or my car or anything in photos, but it's actually quite a nice scene. We've got this kind of mountainous ridge, some cloud kind of coming in, mist coming through the valley, and then my car in the foreground. It's kind of just spotlighting that as well with a bit of light, and it's working out really quite nicely. So I'll get you around the camera now and I'll show you exactly what that's looking like. Ridge line, and then the sky with a bit of cloud cover coming through the back there. So quite a nice composition, working well because of the lights just coming through the kind of valley just through there, and it's just kind of highlighting that. So I'll take that photo now, and then I'll show you the scene that's just behind me. So 2-second exposure, 2-second self timer, 1/40th of a second at f410. All right, so the last scene for the day, again in Linda's Pass in the Otago region of New Zealand. So just got these really nice kind of cascading hills, just overlapping themselves into the distance. And then the sun's just kind of coming in behind me. You'll be able to see the rim light on my beanie here, which is just kind of just hitting the tops of those and creating a really nice scene and just separating the hills as they cascade back. So yeah, we're just going to take the shot again with the X100V, and we've got the Nissi filter set on the front. And because there's no clouds in the sky, it's a little bit boring. So I'm just using the graduated filter just to take a bit of the heat off the sky and just darken it up a little bit, and it's actually worked out quite nice. It's got those little kind of hills in the foreground into the midground, and they're just kind of overlapping each other, and because the light's coming in this direction, it's just hitting the tops and just separating them out, and then that Nissi filter set is just darkening the sky, and we've got a bit of cloud cover just rolling in just in the side there. So quite a nice composition. So we'll take that shot now. So moving that focus point. Oh. And we'll pop the self timer on for 2 seconds to stop any camera shake. But using this tripod with such a small camera, I don't think we've got any issues there, but best to be safe. Have a look at the scene for Astro, and that's the evening this coming evening, and as you can see, it's just probably not the right spot for star trails. You'll get a few kind of coming around here, but I'm not too sure that it's really going to be that great of a composition. And the other issue we've got as well is there is actually a road just here, so cars are going to be coming up this way, and potentially the headlights will be hitting the front of the lens, so probably not the right place for Astro here. Alrighty, again, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's not what I was expecting. I was expecting to use film and a large format camera, but instead we ended up using the X100V because luckily I had this in the case still. And it just goes to show how important preparation is. You know, this hex plate or any other tripod plate that I had has a 1/4 inch thread, and unfortunately the thread into my 4.5 camera is slightly larger, so I do have an adapter for it. I just didn't have it on my tripod mount today. So luckily I'm just on a short, morning trip close to home. If I was out on a longer trip or if I went overseas and I didn't have that, it would be a major issue. So just goes to show how important preparation is. Saying that though, I think it's been a good morning. We've taken some nice photos and we've also been able to try and find some locations for some Astro adventures, which I'll be doing this week and into next week. So, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate all of your support. And if you haven't liked the video, please do that now. And if you're not a subscriber, that's the best way to support the channel. So look, thank you again for watching this morning. And if you've got any questions or comments, please pop them down the bottom and I'll be happy to answer those for you. Thanks again, and until next time, I'll see you soon.